welcome to Setlist Stand Up Without a Net live in Ireland with comedians from around the globe at the Galway Comedy Festival.
Paul said, he says, oh, you did this last year, you had a great time. I said, yeah, that was last year. That was...
Here we go for the never-before-seen set list of Mr. Colin Murphy!
So, good evening, people. Yes, this is a decision that you make and you regret. You know exactly what I'm talking about, fella. And, you know, it's up here, fella. I'm up here. You know what I'm talking about. So, yes. No. Are you on Facebook? I'm not. This is a thing you may be familiar with on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but I can understand why people would get angry on Facebook. You know, people sending you pictures of fucking kittens. And I don't care what other people's cats look like. I have no fucking clue. I couldn't care less. Are you interested in other people's wildlife? It's a strange question to ask someone who's interested in other people's wildlife. You tend to hear it more in gay clubs. And it's where, incidentally, there is also a rage wall. I have been in many gay bars. Many people have been to gay bars. I've been to gay bars. It's a fantastic place to get a drink and not get hassled at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you just make it clear, that's not my thing, and people leave you alone, In fairness, I have to push up to guys and go, and they go, and I go, it's not my thing. And but I've been in there. I don't know if you're familiar with it. The women in the room may not be familiar with male toilets. Whenever you go into an ordinary, there's a wall where you pee, right? That's where you pee in an ordinary, heterosexual bar. There's a pee. But I've been in gay bars, and people get fucking angry in gay bars. I've seen them. I've walked in, and men are at the wall having a piss, but they're fucking angry. They're angry. They're shaking their fists. They're going, you filthy bastard. You filthy bastard. They're too hard on themselves, is what I'm trying to say. And each other. But yes, Jesus, next. And skirmishes, fuck, and it's there's some things you never hear in on the news, and I grew up in Belfast, and it was never called the skirmish or the kerfuffle. It was called the Troubles. It was a very different thing. Initially, they thought, we'll go for a skirmish, or we will call it the kerfuffle. No, not like the south of Ireland, no, during the Second World War, which the rest of the world called the Second World War. You called the fucking, what was it? The emergency. That's what you called it. In emergency, break glass. Did no one ever think of fucking breaking the glass? End the emergency? No. Fucking hell. It's not something you hear, the skirmish versus the kerfuffle. There's a bit of a kerfuffle going on. It could be a skirmish. It started as a skirmish and now it's a kerfuffle. Because that's the way things progress in the scale of shit, right? It starts off as a to-do. That's what it would start off as. A to-do, and then a and then it will end up as a bit of a kerfuffle. Well, what's going on over there? There's a kerfuffle, then a skirmish, and then a fuck-off fight, and then an emergency. That's the way it works. That's the way it builds up. That's the scale. What? Did someone tell you I can speak Irish? Or have I just suddenly discovered I'm dyslexic? What the fuck is it? Come to Bonya. No, this is for fucking trying to remember my Irish. Shit.
Memory.
Bonya. What? Okay. Remember, that's all I got. Bonya is what I know. That's the bit I'm going with.
Remember milk.
Remember milk. Okay, I'll remember milk. Because that's... Shut the fuck up. That's what... I was going to be clever there and go, we all remember milk. Yes. That was the cry that went up in 1916. That's the one. Everybody was outside. That was the last thing that Michael Collins' mother said to him the night of the rising. He was heading off. That's me away now. And she said, don't forget the milk. Come down on ya. And he was, I will. And she never got that milk. And because it was a bank holiday. And everything was shut. The garage, they didn't have much. And but it's also the phrase for nigh banya. It's nigh. It's near, right? This is. I'll talk to non-Irish speakers in the room through it. The CU. It's slightly Scottish. It's the CU. It's like oi. And I'm. That's me. CU. I'm. Right. CU. I'm. Because Scots Gaelic and Irish very very similar languages. And CU. I'm. Nay, which is no. That's no. Right. That's why I would say no. Right. CU. I'm no. And in you. And you would say that during sex. That's what you would do. See it now, and now that's what it is. So thank you very much.
The Irish language thing that completely and utterly threw me. I had no idea. And the audience were going, remember milk? And I thought they were being cryptic here. They were going, remember milk? I thought the audience were in on it as well, and they were playing along and not helping me. But they were actually helping me. They were very nice.